Hello, we're rolling into another episode of the DRH Show. As usual, in each episode, I'll be talking to interesting people within psychology, mental health, and well-being. Today, I'm joined by a TV producer and host. She is also an international speaker and author, Christula Budram, also known as Chrissy B. Thanks for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be here, Dennis.
It's great to have you here, Chrissy. So let's start off with your background. If you could just share to us your trajectory in life and how you ended up doing what you're doing.
Okay, well, I had quite a good upbringing. I was brought up in a traditional Greek home, I would say, loving parents, very close family. Everything was going well until the age of around 16, when I started to have mental health issues. Literally, I just started having a panic attack out of the blue because I was thinking about my future and, you know, what I would do with my life. And then I kind of suddenly realized that I wouldn't be on this earth forever. And I started to have a panic attack because I ended up having a phobia of death. So it just literally came out of the blue. And then that started to affect me in so many ways. I lost my self-esteem. I started to kind of do strange things, like I would kind of not hear an audible voice, but it would be like this very powerful thought in my mind telling me to kind of pick up rubbish on the street, other people's rubbish, by the way. And if I didn't do that, something would happen to me or something would happen to my family. I got depressed. So it's like my whole life from literally one day to the next completely changed.
We'll talk more about your experiences, which, of course, ultimately lead to a number of professions and careers that you've been doing. But I think it's also a bit appropriate to ask you, how have you been coping with the lockdown? Because I understand you're out of the country at the moment, so presumably that's got something to do with the lockdown. So if you could just kind of share to us your lockdown, shall we say, coping mechanism.
Okay, well, what I tried to do during lockdown, obviously it was a strange experience, and it has been a strange experience for all of us. It's something that we weren't expecting. So I tried to keep positive throughout this time. And I also set myself a goal to have a routine, even though, for example, I couldn't do the normal things like go out and do the normal things that I was doing before. I would set myself a routine. So I'd still wake up early, as though I was going to the office. I would still have a time that I would work, a time where I would rest, a time where I would do something that I enjoyed. And also I decided also to keep busy because I'm here actually in Brazil doing some outreach work. And that hasn't stopped because, I'm here for a reason. I'm here to help people going through mental health issues. So despite the lockdown, we're still having, we're still doing the work that we're doing, visiting people, obviously with the restrictions, with the right measures in place. So for me, it wasn't like a huge change because I decided before, okay, I'm going to make the most of this. And plus, I decided to actually invest in learning Portuguese since I'm here. I started a course. I started investing more because I had more time on my hands. So I tried to keep it a very kind of, I didn't sort of see it as a negative thing. I tried to keep it very positive and get the most out of the time.
Because you're based in Brazil now, at the moment, because of the lockdown, you can't do your show, which is the Chrissy B show.
Yeah.
So you could just share to the audience your show. And I understand this is a unique show in Britain. If you could just tell us about it.
Yeah, it was the UK's only TV show that's dedicated to mental health and well-being. It's possibly the world's one as well, actually, because I don't know of any other programs. And I wanted to create something that was helpful because I don't know about you, Dennis, but when I watch something on TV, I always want to learn. I don't just want to sort of just sit there and watch something that I'm not going to get anything from. So I like to learn. I like to discover new things. And I wanted to create something that would be fun to watch, but also educational. So the show is all about helping people with mental health issues, but also about prevention and those that just want to be mentally and physically healthy and happy. So we cover like lots of different content. We have like psychologists that come on. We have a doctor that comes on to answer medical questions. We have fitness, nutrition, aromatherapy. We have regular segments. And one of the I think I like the things that I like the most are the real life stories. I like to bring on people that have had difficult backgrounds. Maybe, you know, they went through mental health issues themselves, or they had like something difficult that happened to them, and show people through their stories how things can be turned around. Because I want the show to, and I always want the show to inspire people in some way to think, even though they're going through a hard time, or things maybe aren't going as planned, but with perseverance, with getting the right help, things can always turn around. So that's what I wanted to create through the Chrissy B show. And, you know, it's been great. We also have positive news, because, you know, sometimes we hear a lot of negative things in mainstream news. So even our news segment is positive. We bring positive news to the public.
Now, let's touch upon what you mentioned. You mentioned that you love hearing other people's stories. And of course, I would understand that you're really perfectly placed in hosting this kind of show, Britain's only mental health and well-being show, because you've undergone a lot of experiences. You have a remarkable story of mental health and recovery. And so I think you're also in a better place to explain to us, how do you think emotions can be dangerous when it comes to mental health?
Yeah, I think with emotions, obviously we are emotional beings, and of course we need our emotions. We love, we have affection, all those things. We need our emotions. However, when it comes to mental health, we have to be very careful, because I remember the way I used to feel, and feelings can, if we're not careful, can take over, and feelings can kind of tell you, oh, you know what, you feel low today, so it's best just to give up. Or you feel really bad, or you're having a bad period, so it's best just to end it all. But as we know, feelings can be up one day, you can feel happy one day and low the next day, depending on what's going on, even according to what you eat. Sometimes what you eat affects your mood, affects your emotions. So we always have to remember to think, use our brain more, and make sure our mind is more in control. For example, people that feel suicidal, they can feel suicidal today, and then tomorrow they're kind of recovering again. So if a person that's suicidal takes action on what they're feeling right now, for example, that could be it for them. So I think it's always really, really important to tell ourselves, look, you might feel like this, but just because you feel doesn't mean that's what you are. You have to remember, feelings are up and down, but we have to use our head. Okay, what's going on? Why am I feeling this way right now? What can I do to come out of this situation? Sometimes it could be just a problem that a person is going through, that if they just think, instead of kind of getting angry and upset and everything, if they can just think to themselves, okay, I have this situation, I have this problem, it feels bad, I don't feel good about it, but what practical steps can I take right now to make this better? And if it's something that I can't do alone, who can I speak to? Or what organization can I reach out to? What can I do that can help me with this situation right now?
And of course, just like what you've said, these fluctuations of emotions could affect our personality and how we function in day-to-day life. And I would imagine that this would form the basis of your book, because as some of audience would realize that aside from being a TV show host and producer, you're also an author. You wrote a book called Depression, It's Payback Time. So would it be right to say that your experiences of fluctuating emotions form the basis of that book?
Yes, partly yes, because I would say my emotions back then actually were always like very intense. I think that's the best word I can describe it, because I was very angry all the time. I used to lose my temper quite a lot with he's my husband now, but my then boyfriend. I felt very insecure, very anxious all the time. I was very needy, because when I was with him, for example, I would feel a little bit better and a glimmer of happiness. And for someone that's depressed, you kind of want to grab onto that normality, that sense of normality. So my emotions would often take over many things. It was only when I got help and I started to recover that I understood about thinking more and not basing my actions on what I was feeling in that moment. So when it came to write, I've shared a lot of my experiences in my book about the way I used to think back then and the way my emotions used to take over, but also how I was able to get over that and start to use my head more rather than my heart, I would say.
And of course, aside from writing your book, you also wrote an article. You recently wrote an article for PsychReg where you said that there was one sentence that changed your life. That's quite really life-changing experience for you, especially to hear that from someone who's experiencing mental health issues. So if you could just share to us what that sentence is.
Okay. So when I was going through my problems, I tried a lot of things to get help. And along my journey, no one ever, I would say, offered me hope. Back then, mental health wasn't really spoken about. We don't have sites like your site and your blog and other people that talk about mental health and psychology. So I felt very alone, and no one ever said to me that things could get better. When I finally found a charity, I spoke to someone there for the first time. And the sentence, what he said to me was very simple. He said, Chris, your life is going to change. Now, for someone that's depressed, that's actually, I was still kind of feeling the after effects of a really bad panic attack that I'd had the night before. I was still shaking. And that's why I went to that place the day after. For someone that's in that situation where they've tried so many things and nothing's worked for them, or they feel very lonely, they feel like, oh my God, is this my life forever? Is this how it's going to be? For someone to offer me that hope was so amazing. So like, it was like, finally, someone actually believes that I can get better. Finally, someone has offered me this hope. Because when you're in that situation, the thought of being like that forever is so scary. And I wasn't strong enough to be able to keep coping with those problems. I couldn't anymore. So I think it's so important when we speak to people, when someone opens up about their problems, at least offer them hope, even if you yourself don't have the solution for that person. But don't tell them, look, I don't know what, there's no hope for you. Things won't be able to change. This is it for you. Because the person can't cope sometimes. So when I heard those words, it was like, it was enough to miraculously stop my panic attacks. I never had a panic attack again from that day, because it was like, okay, now I know that it's possible to recover.
And that sentence really became a lifesaver for you. Just for the benefit of the audience, could you just share to us the name of the charity and just tell us about it? Do they specialize in helping young adults, or it just doesn't really matter what age group?
Okay, it's the UKCG Help Centre. It's actually a church and a help centre. So apart from the ministerial work and everything, it does a lot of social work as well. So there's various things. All the centres are open daily from Monday to Friday. So anyone can just drop in for a chat if they want. There's always someone there that they can talk to. There's a 24-hour helpline, but also there's lots of community activities as well. So there's a youth group. There's help for the elderly. For example, during the lockdown, we had a group that was visiting people with food packages and doing food distributions. Also, during the lockdown, there were 5 different soup kitchens, and people were going there and collecting food. So it supports the community in so many ways. But I think for me, the most important thing was the strength, the support that I got there. For me personally, it was like people believed in me, even though I was kind of very insecure. I mean, you see me on TV and you see me doing events. I could never do anything like that before. I was scared to do a class presentation before. I couldn't speak confidently. So it was like the fact that people believed in me and mentored me and encouraged me and said, Chrissy, you can do it. Don't worry. Things will get better. I was always getting that encouragement. And I think that's so important because, I was talking to someone the other day, a friend of mine, who's someone that she knows, a teacher had told this student, you're never going to make it. You might as well forget doing this. And now he's actually doing really well in life. So it's so important to believe in people and lift them up, not put them down. And I think that's the main thing that I got from there.
So what I'll do, Chrissy, is I'll put the link to UKCG on the video description box for anyone who needs help or in the same situation as you were. They could reach out to UKCG and other similar charities. Now, you mentioned earlier that when you were younger, you lacked self-confidence. So I'm just curious, were you actually, do you have confidence about dancing?
In dancing, Greek dancing, yes, I used to dance a lot with my dad and stuff because he was a dancer in his younger days. So Greek dancing, yes, but not any other type of dancing. I wouldn't say I was a good dancer.
The reason why I asked you about dancing is that, of course, you're also known for teaching students how to dance to promote mental health. Something that you're quite active. So I was just wondering if it's like a carryover from your dancing skills.
It wasn't really, actually, because it's like I liked dancing when I was younger, but then once I had the Chrissy B show and that was going well, I wanted to create something that would be able to talk about a serious message, but in a fun way. So I came up with the idea of the MHD challenge, which stands for Mental Health Dance Challenge. And I wanted to kind of, through the moves of the dance, I wanted to show the fight against depression. Now, because I'm not much of a dancer, I had to get some help on this because I had an idea of the moves in my head. So, for example, I wanted like punching moves. I wanted moves that would show like, I'm not giving up. I'm going to fight this. I'm going to get help. I'm going to do something about what I'm going through. So I enlisted the help of the Victory Youth Group. It's a youth group that does lots of different things, drama and dancing. So I asked for their help and they helped me. I told them the kind of moves and they helped me put the whole thing together. And then we launched it. It was the end of 2017 and it's really taken off in schools. So primary schools actually mainly, which surprised me because I didn't know how it would go. My idea was like, okay, we'll do it online and people would do challenge each other. But it was actually the schools that really embraced it. And what I do, well, before lockdown, and hopefully we'll continue after when things get back to normal, I'll go into schools. I'll do a talk about my mental health and the importance of if the kids are going through something to talk to someone that they trust. And then we teach them the dance. Myself and my parenting coach on the show, Sharon Lawton, she introduces it to the schools. And then we teach the kids the dance and they absolutely love it. And they remember the message behind it, which is great. So they're dancing and they're remembering, okay, when I have a problem, I'm not going to accept this problem. I'm going to talk to someone about it. So that the moves actually help them to remember that if they are going through something, not to keep it all in, but to talk to someone that they trust. So it's amazed me how the kids have really, really embraced it. And I get to be a kid again.
Yeah, brilliant. I think the key message here, Chris, is that you really have to, like what you said earlier, back in the day, I was born in the 80s and I could also attest to that. There was no really serious discussion about mental health. So now that we have more of the technology and resources, what we can do is just sort of offer like variety of ways which we could offer discussions about mental health. And I just want to do a bit of plugging, because like what you do, what we try, I'm organizing a mental health event preceding the World Mental Health Day, and we're trying to offer a range of nuanced conversation about mental health. It can be in the form of dancing, like in the creative industries, and it can also be in the form of blogging. So in the day before the World Mental Health Day, I will be organizing an event, and it will just be what you're doing. We're offering a range of ways in order for us to promote mental health and well-being. Now back to you, Chris. Of course, you're doing a lot of remarkable work in relation to mental health. You've got your TV show, you've got your book, and you also write a number of articles. And of course, because of the work that you do, you've been recognized. You receive a lot of awards. So if you could just share to us these awards, so we could, people who want to follow your footsteps could also be inspired. Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to say with the awards, I've won various ones. Like the most recent one is the UK Radio Health Award. But all of this, I never expected any awards for anything that
that I do. And I also have to say that, you know, so many people are involved with these awards. I would say that, you know, it's not been me alone, because to be honest, if I hadn't had the help that I had from the UKCG Help Centre in the first place, I wouldn't have won any awards, because I'd still be going through the problems. And also with my program, there's so many people involved. Like I have resident guests on that come on weekly. You know, they come on, they're voluntary roles. No one gets paid because the show is sponsored. So they come on weekly, they give their time, like Dr. Rob Hicks, Helena Shah, Dr. Audrey Tang, they come on weekly. We have many of them, and they dedicate their time, they do their research for the show every week, and they dedicate their time to do this. And even with the MHD challenge, Sharon Lawton, who's my family coach on the program, she's the one that introduces it to the schools, because she already works with schools. So these awards actually is down to many people behind who believe in the same things, who believe that mental health is important, who believe that we need to promote and make sure people are free and they feel good to actually open up if they need to, and to make it a normal conversation.
Now, because you've been working for quite some time within the field of mental health, I'm sure you've heard of the statistics that men ages between 20 to 40 are more likely to die of suicide. Yeah. So do you have any message for those who are feeling suicidal or feeling the need to self-harm?
Yeah. I actually wrote an article about this recently, that suicidal people and people that self-harm actually have a gift and they don't realize they have it. And why do I say this? Because when a person has reached the point of actually harming themselves or wanting to take their own life, it's a type of energy that's built up inside them. And let's be honest, Dennis, to take your own life or to harm yourself isn't an easy thing to do. For example, I give this example in my talk sometimes. When we do extreme sports, we know how scary that is. And, you know, even though we've got all the safety equipment on and everything, it's very scary, but we know that we're going to be okay. But imagine doing that and knowing that there's no return. So a person that has reached that stage has this energy, and obviously, yes, it's negative energy. I'm not saying it's a good thing. It's a negative energy that drives a person to do something really destructive. So my message is, if you can use that energy to do something that's so harmful, or think of doing something so harmful to yourself, don't you have then that strength? You have a type of strength already inside of you that you can take, and you can use that strength to change your whole life, to reach out, to keep going until you find the right help that works for you. And people don't realize this, and it makes me sad when I hear the statistics. I'm thinking, my God, look what they did. Look, they were able to do that. They had this kind of energy to do something negative. They had the same energy to do something positive, but people don't realize that. There's something else I want to say, Dennis, as well, because if a friend of yours comes to you and says, look, you know, I'm thinking of ending it all because, you know, I can't take it anymore. I want to do this to myself. Because you wouldn't say to that person, okay, I help you. I'm going to help you kill yourself. You would never do that. So if you wouldn't do that for your friend, why would you do it to yourself? And the problem is sometimes it's that people don't value themselves as much as they value a friend. And I think that's where sometimes the problem is. So it's two things. It's the value, the lack of value, and realizing how important you are, but also not realizing that you have inside of you what it takes to change everything.
I'll be honest with you, Chrissy, that's the first time that I heard of that perspective about people who are feeling suicidal, that, you know, there's an energy within them that they could reach out to change their life. I've never really realized that, because sometimes we just see people who are suicidal, they're just hopeless and helpless. It's a good way to think of that you've got an energy that you can actually reach out and you can use it to change the direction of your life. Aside from that, I think you could also give us some tips and strategies on how we could start the day.
Okay. Well, how I like to do things, I like to wake up early. Why? Because sometimes we're so busy, we're so like all over the place with work and stuff like that. I think it's really, really important, if you're a very busy person especially, to make some time for yourself every morning, even if it's just half an hour. Because if you don't, especially if you've got kids, you know, you've got a partner, you're running around, you've got work, sometimes you kind of lose this time for yourself. So I like to do this first thing in the morning, wake up early, have maybe half an hour to myself. I like to pray, I like to read, and then I exercise. I always do my exercise in the morning. So have that time for yourself first thing. I would say invest in you, do something you enjoy, read something or watch something positive, because a lot of people like to go straight to the phone and they start checking the news and it's like, oh, this has happened and that's happened and it's so negative. So invest in something positive first thing in the morning. And then I think then you're going to be ready for the rest of the day. You'll be more energized. You'll feel happier. Whatever, if you kind of, you know, get up too late and you don't have this time to yourself or to do something positive in the morning, it can kind of affect the rest of your day, I would say.
And what about tips for raising a self-esteem? Yeah.
Raising self-esteem, I would say what works for me is actually finding something that you're good at. And you might not know what that is straight away, because I kind of tried a lot of different things and I like a lot of different things. I wouldn't say I'm excellent at one thing. I'm kind of good at lots of different things rather than excellent in one thing. So I kind of tried lots of different things. So sometimes you'll need to kind of branch out, try new things, and then find something that you're actually good at and do that. I mean, if you can actually do it as a career, wonderful. But let's be realistic. Not everything that you like doing can make money, right? But at least do it as a hobby. At least do something in your spare time. I would also say with self-esteem, I'm very picky about the people that I hang around with. So I like to hang around with positive people, people that can add something to my life, some people that I can learn from. Because, you know, if you're hanging around with negative people, I don't mean people that are going through problems. I mean people that are maybe gossiping about others or always criticizing you. You know, you have to kind of see, like, is this person affecting me negatively? And if they are, I'm going to speak to them. And if they don't change, then maybe I should, you know, this person isn't the best person to have as a friend. So I think you have to be really careful about the environment that you're in as well. Your friends, you know, things that you read, things that you do. You have to be picky, I would say, because it's your life. So you need to, if you want to feel good and raise your self-esteem, you need to kind of look at these kind of things as well.
That really resonates with me, that you have to be selective with what you consume, you know, not just with friends, but also with media. I'm also quite selective of social media, because, you know, I love Twitter, but just more recently, I don't know if it's just recently, Twitter has become really very political. And sometimes, you know, you just want to see something to be updated, to enjoy something, and all you see is all about politics, and sometimes it can be too much. So I really agree with you. Say we have to be selective of what we surround ourselves or what we consume. Now, Chrissy, let's learn more about you. Is there a particular individual who was the greatest influence to your work?
Well, I would say I've had quite a few mentors since the first time I started to get help and stuff. So there's quite a few individuals that have helped me along the way. But I would say probably the biggest influence and help has probably been my husband, actually, even though he doesn't work directly in the work that I do. But he's always there supporting me. He's, you know, so understanding, for example, when I have events and I'm not always around, and, you know, I'm not with him as much as he'd like me to be. So he's always been that support system for me, I would say. And that's enabled me to be able to do what I want. And actually, he comes with me to events now. And like when I go to the schools, he comes with me and takes the photo. He's my photographer. So he's really supportive. And I think just knowing that he's got my back and he's there supporting, and he's not like, oh, they're at home, kind of like, oh, you know, where is she? What's she doing now? It's been a relief for me actually to have someone like that by my side that supports, that helps.
I could really relate to that. You know, my husband also is the one who supports me a lot. In fact, he's the one who's going to edit this video.
Oh,
okay.
You got a job for him already?
He edits all of my my stuff online. It's geeky. Anyway, you do a lot of work on mental health. You write book. You have a TV show about mental health. So what's the big message? What's the core message to the public when it comes to mental health in terms of the work that you do?
What I like to say to people is that sometimes we have to be careful of some of the messages that are out there regarding mental health, because sometimes I hear a lot of things like, oh, you know, you can never fully recover, for example, from depression. It's something that you'll have to live with for the rest of your life. Now, I'm not criticizing anyone that says that, because it's just that I couldn't do that. I didn't have the strength. And actually, people with mental health issues, going back to when we spoke about the suicidal people, I think they're very strong. And why do I say that? Because despite being depressed and despite other mental health issues, you go out to work, you look after your kids, you look after other people. Maybe you're in an industry that, you know, is helping other people. That takes a tremendous amount of strength to do. And the fact that you're able to do that means you're very strong. So, you know, but for me, I wasn't able to do that. I wasn't able to do it. So I always had this hope that one day I would recover completely. And it's true, I haven't had depression for over 23 years, no more panic attacks. I've had no relapses, nothing. So I have fully recovered. So the message that I like to say to people is that you have a choice. Just because someone tells you, look, this is going to be it for you for the rest of your life, or you're going to have to take medication for the rest of your life. Yes, always follow your doctor's instructions. I'm not saying don't follow the advice of the professionals, but always have the other side of things as well, is that, okay, one day I can recover. One day I can be free of this completely, because many people have completely recovered. So my core message through my show, through my book, through the work that I do, is that you have a choice. If you want to, for example, learn to live with certain things, and you're happy with that, you're fine with that. You know, you have your meds, you have your support and everything, and you're happy. That's good for you. Then okay, go ahead. That's fine. But if you're not okay with that, if you think, well, I don't want to carry on like this is too much for me, as it was for me, then there is hope, and that you can recover completely. So I think it's important to highlight both sides and what is it that you believe? Because, you know, even people that have had incurable diseases, for example, like cancer and things like that, people recover, even though, you know, they're told you can't recover, you know, this is going to be it for you. But it's what the person believes. It's what's inside of you. What do you think? What are you telling yourself? Do you think you can beat this? And don't stop at like the first thing that you try, because maybe you try one thing like I did. I went to my doctor. I tried counseling, first of all the doctor, then the counseling. It didn't work for me at the time. I'm not saying counseling doesn't work, but at the time I didn't feel like I was getting the most of it. But I kept going until I found something that worked for me. So I think it's important that just because you don't get help or recover the first avenue you try, don't give up. Try something else. Try something different until you get the help that you need.
That's a lovely message. I think what we can take away from what you've said is that, you know, you have to find something that really works for you. You have to take into account the uniqueness of your live experience, and you know, find something that works. Now, of course, in your line of work, you've heard a lot of misconceptions about mental health. So if you kind of like mentioned a few misconceptions and kind of address those misconceptions.
Okay, one big one actually that I experienced myself, the first one, snap out of it. This is something that, a misconception that people have, that, oh, a person that's depressed can just snap out of it. And I was even told by my lovely boyfriend, I love him to bits, he didn't understand about mental health. He used to say to me, come on, Chris, just snap out of it. And it was like, someone that's depressed and someone that's going through problems, you can't just snap out of it. It's not something that it's not a state that you want to be in. You don't choose to feel that way. So to tell someone, or to think that someone with mental health issues can just snap out of it is really, don't do that. Don't say that, because that used to really get me angry before. And another thing as well that, you know, people that I've spoken to and, you know, through the show, sometimes people think that if a person has mental health issues, they're unreliable, they're not employable, they're not going to do well, they're risky if to take on. When I was depressed, I worked hard. I still worked hard. I was very dedicated to my work. I was very dedicated to my studies. I still managed to get my degree despite what I was going through. And you could, if you're an employer that thinks this way, you could be missing out on having a really good employee. Some people, for example, that I've worked with on the Chrissy B show, I've had producers, for example, that have helped me, assistant producers. They also had mental health issues, and they were great. They understood actually obviously the core of the show and what we were doing. And yes, sometimes they needed to talk, sometimes they needed a bit of extra support. And what's the problem? I was able to help them, to speak to them, to encourage them, but they were so dedicated and so there with me, with bringing great guests on. So it's such it upsets me actually when I hear that sometimes people are just kind of sidetracked because maybe they have depression, or maybe they need a bit of time off work. People take time off work for an injury. What's the difference if it's mental health or if it's physical health? But there are so many great people out there that you could be missing out on if you're an employer, that you could be missing out on just because maybe you hear or they've written on their CV that they have this issue. Don't sidetrack them just because of that. Speak to them, see what because there are some incredible people out there, Dennis.
That's really a good point, that just because someone is suffering with mental health issues, they can't do their work. Because someone who is a wheelchair user, we won't discriminate them on the basis that they're using a wheelchair. So why would we prejudge someone because they've got a mental health issue?
Exactly.
Now, what would you be doing if you didn't work as a TV host?
Interesting question, because I kind of like a lot of different things, and that's why I actually had issues sometimes with kind of deciding what I wanted to do when I left uni and stuff like that, because there's so many different things that I like. But I think probably I would have ended up maybe doing something in the fitness industry, because I was really into my weight training and stuff like that, exercise, or food, because I absolutely love food. I think that comes down to my Greek background, or something to do with decluttering, because I'm really I would say have a bit of a passion for decluttering. I love doing that kind of stuff. So maybe something along those lines. There's
decluttering agency. I've heard of that. It's becoming quite popular now, and I think that would be.
We actually have a segment on our show. I decided to bring that into Sally Woodford comes on and help. We go to people's houses and we declutter their rooms and stuff. So it's something that's even on the program.
That's interesting. Yeah, because as you've mentioned earlier, your atmosphere, your environment affects you. And I'm not really very tidy, but I have to say it really affects my mood.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
You could just see my desk right now.
Are you hiding it, Dennis?
I am hiding it. That's why I have a black background. Anyway, Chrissy, what else is in the pipeline? And could you also invite us to your show? When is it on?
Yeah. Okay. Talking about things in the pipeline, I'm actually in Brazil at the moment doing outreach work. So everything is kind of on hold at the moment for me. But definitely when I come back to the UK, when I go back, I would like to continue with the MHD Challenge tour with the children, with the schools and everything. And of course, continue with the program. And I also do events and stuff as well. So I'd like to carry on with that. Regarding the Chrissy B show, it's actually on my TV, which is on Sky 191. And it plays every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. But also all the shows are on YouTube as well. And if you want more information, you can go to the website, which is chrissybshow.tv.
Okay, I'll put all of those links, including the link to your YouTube channel of the Chrissy B show, so anyone can watch your amazing show. Well, it's been an insightful conversation with you, Chrissy. Thank you for sharing your time, your story, and your expertise.
You're welcome.
Talking to you. I look forward to hearing more about your work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dennis.